another episode of Lockersfirst podcast. My name is Andre V, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Parcel Lockers Central. Today, my guest is Bernhard Buchovc from Connect2Post and Postal platform. And the reason we are talking today is the recent report. Bernhard was publishing the report. Name is Postal and Parcel Trend Report for 2024. So thank you for that, Bernhard. Thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, Henry, for having me. Looking forward to our discussion.
It's really always great to see you and talk to you. And that actually, the report was also a blessing for me. A very interesting reading and very comprehensive overview of our industry. So tell me a little bit about the background of that report, why and when and who.
I mean, there are several studies, reports, surveys out there that from time to time look at the postal and parcel market. And some of them are very broad, some of them are very specific. What we tried to do was kind of get a snapshot at how the industry feels at the moment. And I think it's very subjective at the end of the day anyway, but there are some things that are also objective. So you see some commonalities that come out at the end of the day. You see some feelings that everybody shares. It's not only about trends, it's not only about new technologies, it's also about challenges that the different executives are seeing or identifying. It's about priorities. So where are you going to focus on in the next year or in the next years to come? So it should give a picture of this moment, which can of course change. So next year there might be other priorities. We all know that. So there might be other trends that pop up. And today, when we look at technologies and trends, things are happening so fast. You have something on the radar. You decide that you do something about it. But there might be new things that come up very quickly. And we all know how fast things develop. So that was one of these, the reasons, the objectives of this report, to get this snapshot and to identify some of those trends, developments, challenges, priorities, and get a discussion going on it.
Okay, but let's talk about that snapshot and let's talk about the feelings we are having toward the market right now. We have had approximately 10 years of continuous growth in parcel and postal industry due to the e-commerce growth. Then we had COVID period that only incentivized more of this growth. And now we are sort of having some kind of cool down period, let's say it so. But we were also recently together in Leaders in Logistics Summits, and the sentiment in the industry is very positive. So let me ask it this way. What is your snapshot about the industry? How do you feel the health of the parcel and postal industry is now?
I think everybody in the industry is very much aware of those changes that are going on. You mentioned them. I mean, e-commerce volumes are growing. They are still growing. They will be growing. So this is not going to change. The question is rather who is getting most of the shares. So it's not about the overall volumes. It's about the individual volumes. And there it's getting tricky. And as you say, the industry is very motivated, very positive, and I think for various reasons. And one of those reasons is definitely that everybody sees, okay, we have to do something, we have to react. Market is changing, the environment is changing, the e-commerce environment is changing. And when you look at, for example, postal operators, even more for them, the market has been changing. When you look at the international, the cross-border volumes, how difficult it has become with the changes over the recent years, not only regulatory changes and new laws that have been introduced, ICS2 in Europe, for example, which make problems of shipping items from one country to another sometimes. It's also new business models that are developing. So the B2B2C model, we see a lot from from the Asian region coming into other areas of the world, and not via the traditional streams anymore. So they are going to be replaced more and more because suddenly, while it has been cheaper and easier to ship via the postal stream, it's becoming, well, more difficult and more expensive, maybe even. So looking for all those different alternatives, of course, the market is reacting and adapting to that. So all providers in the market sense that, feel that, and see that. And there I haven't even talked about competition yet, that has been increasing over the recent years as well. So in every country, you don't have a postal operator only delivering items. You have many other competitors, and very often now also marketplaces that are starting to deliver. So again, you add one layer to another, and you see the complexities that have been evolving over the recent years, which is kind of interesting. But at the same time, everybody sees we have to do something, and in parallel to all these developments, we have all the technologies, new technologies that are evolving. I mean, we had them around for many years already. I mean, we were talking about big data already a couple of years ago. But we are reaching completely different spheres of big data at the moment. What is possible? What is achievable? What other technologies can support the capturing of the data, storing of the data, and so on and so forth. And then what other technologies are added again to that, to work out the data, to clean the data, and whatever is necessary. So one of those keywords here is artificial intelligence, of course. So you have all those things coming together at the same time while everything is shifting. And so that's why it's interesting to get this snapshot, to look at, okay, what is the feeling industry? Where are the pain points? Where are the challenges? Where are the opportunities that everybody is seeing? And how can we react to that? And so I was quite kind of really in a good position as well to have really very bright people giving input. So beside the survey that we did, it was also, of course, interviews and other events where you could involve people that have a long experience in the industry and that could share how they see the different developments. So quite happy to have that included as well. So it gives more flavor, of course, to the snapshot, but also validates some of the findings. Also of other reports that we included. So we did secondary research as well, and some of those findings there could also be supported through what we have seen. So I think that is, well, in a nutshell, yeah, how we see the objectives of this report.
One of the main keywords you are bringing out of that survey is digitalization. And in a sense that it's a little bit surprising for me, because let's say we invented computers 30 years ago, and there is IT development going on in logistics years and years already, and there is not so much Excel and at all. There's no paper and pencil workflow at all. But still, we are going about talking about digitalization, and we are still putting it number one place. So, what is the reason we cannot digitalize our industry?
Well, there's still a lot of paper around, that is true. But digitalization, and this is, I think, also what we've seen, is that it doesn't come only in one form. So there are different areas where you can digitalize processes. And one of the areas that are quite apparent, and that everybody who receives parcels from time to time is experiencing, is the exchange with the consumers. So, for example, you receive something, how many digital processes are there involved at the moment? And sometimes, you just say, not many. So you still see that a lot of things are happening in a very, very traditional form. And the developments that you see, for example, in other industries, you don't see them everywhere in the postal parcel delivery systems yet. Communication with the customer, for example, involvement of the customer, decision-making of the customer. So you receive something, but very often you don't have so many choices that you can voice. So I think this whole area of communication, digitizing the approach of how you deal with your final customer. I think this is certainly one of the areas. Well, we have been talking about this for years, as you correctly stated. But when we look at where we stand today, we still can see that many, many things have to be done. That's one thing. The other thing is, of course, all the processes, the internal processes. Um, Digitization is happening everywhere, but you know, you need to connect everything. You have to exchange on all the internal processes along the entire value chain. Um, and digital processes can simply accelerate the speed and the quality. And we see it entering everywhere, but not everywhere it is at the moment. So there can be a lot more in this respect. So I think digitalization you see in all those internal processes, external processes, but you also see where there is still room to improve, where there is still room to add something. That's one thing. But then also add to it all those developments when it comes to data. All this data where suddenly you see new areas of application. Think about AI, artificial intelligence, and then take it one step further and say, okay, how can we make work artificial intelligence in our communication with our customers, so that our customers don't have to come to a post office, for example, but just can do everything from home. I'm not only talking now about consumers, I'm also talking about small and medium enterprises, for example. So what can a small and medium enterprise today do in their exchange with a postal or parcel company, which is completely digitized? And there are some things that you can do, but other things that you can't do yet. So it is opening all those doors, making it easier, and thus, of course, creating a stronger business relationship and additional growth opportunities. So there is so much still to do, and that's why I think is digitization coming out really still as the top trend that was identified. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you in a sense that I had to ask it from the skeptical point of view to have a discussion, but yes, there are a lot of things to do. There are things like interoperability to open or that data exchange between carriers or between consolidators. So a lot of things, but let's talk about this AI. And I agree. Also, in that Barcelona conference, we were there. This was most probably the most exploited word or expression every speaker mentioned. But don't you think it's a little bit overexposed, and sort of I feel that now people sort of name every software already AI in a sense that um, have you seen during those interviews the real AI solutions show that there is a intelligence, artificial intelligence making decisions. And I'm not talking about the data analysis or this kind of stuff. I still don't see it in a sense. I would like to see them, but I still don't see that. Have you seen them?
Well, the reason I think is that we don't see so much around at this point is that it's still in its infancy. So we have AI as this huge opportunity of really making a change, making things more efficient. Um, but there is still a lot of testing around. I mean, some parts of AI have been around for some time, you know, chatbots, machine learning, but these are all or have been kind of early versions of it. When we look at AI opportunities today, we are talking about completely different things, about things that are much more powerful. And we see it in some solutions, of course, in some technologies more than in others. In particular, where we can really feel it. Um, just think about the whole optimization processes when it's in the delivery process, concerning routes, concerning the value chain within sorting facilities. So we see it there. It's already being introduced in many of those processes, but we'll see much more in the future. So again, AI has so many use areas, and in those interviews, I've encountered many actually in different areas. But to be quite frank, when you look at what has been deployed, what is tested, And what is in the strategic planning of postal parcel companies within the next 1 to 2 years to look into? You see, we adjusted 10 to 20% maybe of what is possible, or where currently tests are happening. And the other 80% are, of course, on the radar. And there will be happening something. There will be technologies that will be tested and use cases that will be tested. But this, I think, is going to be quite exciting over the next 1 to 2 years because it's going to happen fast. The technologies is here. The technology can do all those things, so we know that. But to make it a tool that is really helping to become more profitable, to become more efficient, become more productive in all the different supply chain processes, also the outward processes with, as you said, customers, other partners of the industry. We see those use cases, but all of them need to be evaluated, tested, screened, and they have to be also safe to use. So this is also something that needs to be kept in mind. It's not a technology where it simply can deploy it, it needs to be safe as well. And I think this is also something that the industry very much recognizes, that it's not something easy, but something that needs also protection and the real use case.
Absolutely. One thing I've been lucky to study a little bit more deep is autonomous vehicles. This is very related to our industry, and this is the future of our industry for sure. And companies like Clevon and Starship, who are making their one robot and the other bigger delivery vehicles, they are really using intensively AI algorithm to make this happen. And let's go to that next pivot and next area you are mentioning in report, and this is automation as such. I'm also quite a big fan of this word. So my thesis consists that there are two macro trends. This is automation and consolidation that drives logistics in the future. Automation, we are talking about robots, robotics, we are talking about automatization, warehouses, also parcel lockers that are automated delivery options. What do you see there? What are the main things that made you put this automation one of the most important keywords in your report?
Yeah, I mean, first we have to differentiate here because there is an element, of course, involved which limits automation or robotics to some regions or countries, simply because of labor costs. So we find all those developments mainly in countries where the labor costs are relatively high. So if you would do it in a country with low labor costs, then the financial incentives are not there. So that's one element. The other element is the workforce. And this is also something that came out in the interviews in particular very strongly, is that even though also in high labor cost countries at the moment the workforce is available, we see in many countries already shortages and problems to hire staff. And while it might still be okay in the next 3 to 5 years, it will probably be an issue. And the more is automated in those countries, the better, of course, you're prepared for those shortages in available labor. So that is one thing. The other thing is, what we also try to do is separate automation from robotics. For a very particular reason, we wanted to identify how is automation as we know it, simply automated processes, seen in comparison to robotics, where you have other technologies involved, such as AI, for example, if you think about delivery robots that you were mentioning. And here we see also something that when it comes to automation, so this is valued very, very highly, of course. So everybody sees that we need to go into more automation, automating processes as far as we can go. But when you look then at robotics, there is more skepticism. And the reason for this is, I think, that the technology is in many areas not considered to be adequate at the moment. So either there are some use cases that are missing. Um, that can be when it comes to delivery robots, for example. How do you do it? Where do you do it? Are there any regulations? Is it with one parcel or more parcels? How should it be done? And fully autonomous solutions are anyway still seen as quite problematic. And then you go to other areas, like for example, pick and place robots and things like that. And also there, when you look at it, you see that more and more are of course used and put in action. Many of them are tested. Um, but you also get the feeling we are not there yet in many areas. So, for example, the speed to pick and place something uh, or items that do not have the same weight or the same form. Um, so how can this be put to use if, for example, there's still the necessity to have some uh, human at the side of it and get involved in those processes? So in those interviews, what we found out was also that when it comes to robotics, there is still a technological leap necessary in order to make or in order to identify many, many use cases. But it will be just a question of time. So everybody's clear about that as well. And that's why all those testings are taking place. That's why we see so many POCs, tests, and everything in the market to find out how can we improve the quality of those robots and adapt them to the needs of the industry. So to really create those efficiencies that everybody is looking for. And then automation combined with robotics at the end of the day should be able to well to make a fully automated um, process of sorting and forwarding of items, parcels, for example, whether it's in a warehouse, in a sorting facility, or anything else. With delivery, it's going to be more complicated because you have to go into the streets. There are many other public questions involved in that. But technology-wise, a lot of things are happening, and we can see them quite successfully being deployed in some areas, in some countries, for some use cases.
But let's test you in a sense that the aim of the automation and robotics is that basically the parcel is delivered from the initiation point to the customer without human hand touching the parcel. So, what is your prognosis? When it going to be
Well,
happen? Is it next year? Is it in 5 years? Is it in 15 years? How far we are from that ideal point that there is no need for human to touch the parcel anymore?
I mean, when you look in a sorting facility, I think you can say something, and I think realistically 5 to 10 years. Um, when you include other processes as well, it's getting more complicated. If you include processes such as delivery, then I think we are not in 5, 10 years. It will take much longer than that. Because there's so many other things that you need to consider. Because then you would need an autonomous delivery, and with autonomous solutions, we all have been wrong from the beginning onwards. So I remember when the discussion started and everybody said, okay, autonomous. In 5 years, we'll do everything autonomous. We are past those 5 years and we are not close yet, simply because of so many other questions that are involved with it. How can you do it? How does it become efficient? To have people have to come down to pick up their parcel? Can you put it somewhere? Um, and I'm not even talking about all the regulatory and legal questions that might come into play. And then this is just about ground robots. I'm not even talking about drones because, again, with drones, everybody 10 years ago was kind of excited and saying, okay, this is happening now very soon. And there are those cases where you can really save so much money. We haven't seen any big breakthrough in the last few years, except very, very limited use cases for very specific um, delivery occasions. But so I'm very conservative in this respect, thinking that when it comes to delivery, we're not going to we are going to see more automation. We might see more robotics also in the streets in the future, but fully robotic, autonomous delivery models, I don't think that we'll have them anywhere soon.
In a sense, I was also quite a skeptic, but this last summer when I saw Starship delivery robots, we had a street repair, and the pavement was sort of preliminary and was moved to another place. And this small robot find the way between the people walking there, between the scooter drivers. I was astonished actually that how smart this AI already is, and that what comes to the ground delivery, I think that it might be actually much closer than we anticipate. Those kind of small autonomous things.
The
But
technology is here. I fully
yeah,
agree with you. The technology is here. So let's see. Yes.
yeah, and again, I just recently heard that Starship did in Finland with the oldest retailer. They finished the test period and they went to the production, not because the retailer wanted that, but the customers demanded to have this service. So I see also the customer anticipation for autonomous delivery. That is weird, actually. I wouldn't anticipate that customers will appreciate it so much.
Yep.
But let's go to the one more big area until we have to wrap it up, and this is the other very big topic, and the code name is sustainability. Also in Barcelona, everybody is talking about sustainability, but sort of I think that everybody understands in very general terms what it is. But what it come when we break down to last mile and logistics operation, then actually everybody has a sort of different opinions. What is sustainable and what isn't, and how do you feel that? I see that you are also putting it on the high importance category, but is it sort of clear what and how we have to do in order to be sustainable?
I think again here you have regional differences. There are regions and countries where sustainability doesn't have the same value as it might have in Europe, for example. You have countries where fuel is cheap, so the need to do a fleet transformation is seen as well, maybe not so urgent for economic reasons. In other countries, you have high fuel costs, and shifting to alternative solutions like an electric fleet makes much more sense. So we see all these different areas in some countries with a very, very high priority. So changing the fleet, for example, going 100% electric, producing even electricity is high on the agenda of several postal and parcel companies, for example, on sorting facilities and other buildings. So we see it's happening. It's very high on the agenda, and I think that's really a very positive thing. But I mentioned Europe. You see it also outside of Europe, of course. But then in many countries, you still see kind of a reluctant approach to it, and this is due to some factors that are not 100% clear sometimes. So, for example, if you change to electric vehicles, what do you do with the battery afterwards? And is it really that sustainable? So you still have the discussion going on. So if you look into different markets, you find that there are different views on that as well. Some saying, okay, we go 100% electric, there is no alternatives. Others saying, okay, but before we do that, let's ask a few questions and let's see how we can deal with them. And there you see the development is much slower. That's one area, of course. So CO2, cutting CO2 emissions in the entire processes. The other thing that you see, of course, is as well the element of waste reduction. So, for example, packaging, label-free printing, label printer-free shipments, so that you don't use this additional paper anymore, whether it's in the packaging or for the label. So it's all these kind of developments that also come into play, and you see actually many countries that are starting to offer solutions that go into circular economy, reusable packaging, for example. So many things when it comes to that. And then another layer to that is, of course, and this also came out very clearly, is that it must happen along the entire supply chain. So it's not only now for a very specific operator to do something, but also for the other partners before and after in the process. So it's a process that's very real. When you look at the investments and the priority, it's among the top 3 priorities of the postal operators, and this is according to our survey, which was on a global scale. While you clearly had, of course, indications of several people saying, no, we don't think this is so important, but still it came out number 3. And I think this is a very powerful message. So the industry is taking this extremely seriously, investing a lot of money in it. So it is on the top priority list for investments in the next 2 to 3 years. And you see how fast it's happening. So fleet transformation, just one example, everybody can see it. But adding to that, of course, are some other elements, such as, for example, we are not only transforming the fleet in the sense of we replace a van, diesel van by an electric van. You can also see alternative delivery models for urban delivery, for example. So many bike solutions, cargo bikes, tricycles, whatever you want. So it's also this that is adding now to this portfolio of how do I deliver something. It's not just the traditional model that we have seen in the past. So everybody thinking about new delivery models. And then, of course, you have other things that come in saying, okay, we are back to digitalization and data. So let's think about how can we optimize our processes, such as route optimization, making it more profitable, making it more sustainable, making it more efficient, increasing the quality. So, for example, communication also with the customer. I don't have to go to a delivery point if I know the customer is not going to be at home. I might instead go to a locker or to another out-of-home solution. So there are many alternatives out there, and this all plays together. So sustainability, if you're talking about this today, it's really much more than several people consider, of course, fleet transformation and maybe circular economy, but it's much more than that. You can find it in nearly every postal process at the moment. But at the end of the day, I'm also convinced, and this is also to some degree what we heard, of course, in the report, in the interviews and in the inputs that we received, there must be some kind of also economic case behind it. So sustainability for the sake of sustainability will take longer. But if you say, okay, there is also a business case behind it, because, for example, delivery gets more efficient, becomes cheaper, you need fewer routes, maintenance of electric vehicles long-term is also cheaper. So if you add all these things together, and there comes this business case, which shows that there is going to be some return on investment, then it's going to happen very fast. And that's what we can see in some countries where this business case has been made.
Absolutely. Listen, Bernhard, we have to wrap it up. The only question is where the people who are interested in that report can get it. Can you name some link? We'll definitely put it down the video also, but whether you have a homepage or link it in, what is the source?
Yeah, it's on the Postal Innovation homepage, and I think the link to it can be provided in the video at the end, and you can download there either a kind of an executive summary version, which provides you with some of the key findings, an executive summary, and a few charts. And you can also download the full version of it, which is of course much longer, as a lot of data and percentages included, and charts and pie charts and whatever you want. So both versions are freely available on our website, and everybody who's interested can simply download it. And I'm happy also to hear any kind of feedback or input. So as I said in the beginning, the idea of this study was also to get input, to get a discussion going, and to validate it again next year. So it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. Thank you for the report. Thank you for this video, and I hope everybody who is interested in the last mile and logistics prospects, then it's a must-read report. So thank you again, Bernhard, and hopefully see you soon again.
Thank you very much, Andre.